We have a lot of hard work to do. There's some very tough issues, and I think we all look forward to getting down to the final effort here to see whether or not a deal is possible. I think everybody would like to see an agreement, but we have to work through some difficult issues.
Key to any negotiation, simple. Never let the other side see you sweat, and never let them think they have the upper hand. Listen to those keeping a close eye on the Iranian nuclear talks, and you will quickly discover a thread of thinking that has the Obama administration sweating uranium bullets and leaving the mad mullahs to believe they are the ones in control of these nuclear talks. And at least publicly, they seem willing to scuttle any deal. Welcome back to national security analyst at the Clarion Project, Ryan Mauro. Ryan, thanks for joining us. I have to begin right away with two headlines. Here's what I see in front of me right now. From yesterday, deadline likely missed in nuclear deal. From today, White House confident final Iran nuclear deal is in reach. Ryan, which one is real?
Well, the Obama administration would say that's within reach after the deadline. So you can actually reconcile those two headlines. But of course the Iranians are willing to go past the June 30th deadline. I mean, what difference does it make to them? Because they understand that there's a lot of prestige politically, there's a legacy at stake. And so for them, if they want to gain the upper hand, you break the deadline. It's just common sense.
Let me give you a devil's advocate side here that a lot of people have been posturing here in the last couple of weeks. They're saying that, wait a minute now, whatever deal we cut, even if it's a bad one for the United States, look, the generation that shaped the Iranian policies, they're gone. This is a younger generation right now. And by the time this deal runs its course, this younger generation will be in power. Khamenei will be in his 80s by that point. It'll be a new generation that's there, and they won't be nearly as likely to launch a nuclear weapon at Israel, America, or anybody else. Where are the flaws in that thinking?
Well, there's some solid logic behind it because the younger population certainly is Western and very different, but the fact is that the radicals do remain in charge, and if Iran was a democracy where you would elect those new genuinely moderate reformers among the student population there, the young population, then that would make sense. But that's not how it works. The people that select the supreme leader, the people that basically run the government, it's a theocracy, and they pick people that think like them to be in charge. So there's a clash that's going on between the population and the regime, and we shouldn't confuse that for thinking that there's some type of democratic process going on.
Would we be heading directly for some kind of an armed conflict with Iran if we believed that thinking?
Potentially. I'm not a prophet, but I think that you would see a lot of bloodshed. I think that you would see state sponsorship of terrorism dramatically increase because their sponsorship of terrorism throughout this whole process, the U.S. government confirms, has not decreased at all. So when they get an influx of revenue, they're just going to dramatically ramp up their sponsorship of terrorism. U.S. officials say that they're increasing their aid to the Taliban right now. We see what they're up to in Iraq, where Iranian-backed proxies have actually threatened U.S. forces there, and they've killed our soldiers in the past. And look at what they're doing against Arab enemies like in Yemen. So all the indications are that any growth and strength that they have as a result of a deal will go right into promoting jihad.
Ryan, is that maybe one of the problems here that a lot of times when we talk about this, we think about the eventuality of creating a nuclear bomb and Iran having the bomb and launching it. But in essence, what we're missing here is putting money in their pocket, furthering terrorism around the world, and being basically that state-sponsored terrorism. That usually falls down the list. But in reality, shouldn't that be right at the top?
Right, I agree with you, because that's the core issue here. It's not really about a nuclear weapon. It's about the ideology of the regime when you look at their constitution, and it requires the leadership to pursue the downfall of all non-Islamic governments around the world. That's in their constitution. They are legally required to do that. And so that, for me, that is basically it gives you a sign of what they're going to do with a nuclear weapon. Let's say they don't actually detonate a nuclear bomb and they just get the strength, the shield from having a nuclear weapon. Well, that's just as disastrous.
30 seconds left then. Sanctions. If the world ratchets up these sanctions, could it be a way to bring Iran under control, or would we just be punishing the innocents of Iran, the people who are basically held captive by this government, and all they'll do is blame us for more generations to come?
What the polling data indicates is that the Iranian population does not blame the Iranian regime for the sanctions. Sanctions do not result in internal instability, but I don't think that necessarily makes them anti-American either. Nothing's going to push them into the arms of the regime that kills and abuses them.
I know you're not a prophet, but do you think this deadline passes with no deal?
Most likely.
Most likely, and unfortunately, it means John Kerry is going to have to go back to the bargaining table, and he's going to have to once again, maybe as Donald Trump put it, go hat in hand. Ryan Mauro, always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now tell us via social media. You're in control. What would you do sitting at the table across from the Iranians? Send it to us via email, put it on Facebook, send it to me via Twitter, and we'll talk about it here. Stay with us. We'll continue right here on the fastest 60 minutes in news. This is The Hard Line.